Should we try the 216?
What's that?
It's questions that I came up with.
Oh, that's
I
right.
messaged
Yeah,
you
yeah.
about it.
You did.
Let's do it.
Go
So
for it.
we were looking at
new
starting.
feature.
Yeah, we need short form content.
In advance of this podcast,
Not everybody likes to watch
transitioning
an
to
hour and a
TikTok.
half of us rambling about Van Halen.
Admittedly, that's been 5 minutes of this, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer.
Cumulatively. We'll cap it at 10 minutes.
So we're looking at 2 Desert Island albums.
Okay.
What was the one?
Only 2?
This was your idea.
So it's 2 2 Desert Island albums. What was the one artist we should be checking out in the Cleveland area?
I thought that
Okay.
was the 6.
I was going to do that.
Let's
but
get
that
the
seems
notes.
like it really puts pressure on people because they always forget on
Well,
the other side.
That's why it shouldn't be the 1, because if it's just 1,
Yeah.
never mind.
I
All right.
feel a little so should we make it 1 Desert Island album, 2 artists?
One Desert Island album is too hard.
Where
I already
are
have
you?
like 4 in my head.
We text each other too much to be going through this right now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all right.
That's what the search functions is
I
for.
guess I'm
right.
gonna
Where
have
is
to
it?
add a cut. I'm not going to
Search.
do it though.
So
In
2 Desert Island
conversation.
albums, 1 artist we from the Cleveland area.
See,
you
I
should
had it
know.
as 6
We
that
got
we
2
should know.
Desert Island albums, 1 venue you'd love to
One
play,
venue you would, yeah.
and 6 local bands we should be listening to.
Okay. I don't know if the venue I'd love to play makes sense from my perspective. I mean, I guess I've started DJing out more this year, so I can answer it from that perspective. 2 Desert Island records.
They don't have to be from Island Records.
No, thank goodness. I'm trying to remember the last thing I'd listened to on Island Records. I mean, I have 4 that immediately popped into my head, so I'm just going to go for the first 2.
Go for 4. This is not a
Okay,
strict concept.
it's not. So we're doing 4.
It's the
1,
440.
We could do 4-4, but then I'm not recommending any Cleveland-based acts, and then I'd be sad about
This
that.
is East Side shit. Yeah.
There we go. So, Voodoo by D'Angelo comes up front of mind because it is such a beautiful amalgam of every black musical tradition
That's a
before
new
it.
word for me.
Amalgam,
Amalgam.
kind of
Amalgam
like
in the middle.
amalgam in the middle.
Oh, okay. I know.
You're not the boss of me now.
But it fuses blues, soul, funk, hip hop, gospel in such an effortless way, and it adheres to kind of one of the rules that I've developed for what a great record is. It both has to be an engaging listen when you sit down and just listen to it exclusively, but it also has to be good background music. It has to be something that you can live with in a lot of different contexts. And I would hesitate to think of a setting in which that doesn't really work. You could work out to it, you could put it on at a party, you can just kind of sit in your headphones and listen to it. It is just an absolutely incredible record, and was released in 2000 during a period of soul innovation known... there were a bunch of people that rented out Electric Lady land in 1999 and 2000. Erykah Badu's Mama's Gun was recorded in those same sessions. Common's Like Water for Chocolate was recorded during those same sessions, and D'Angelo's Voodoo. And that is the record that is... I mean, they've all stood the test of time to varying degrees, but I love that record. It's sonically perfect. Second one's probably Radiohead's In Rainbows, because that is still, I think, the most perfect distillation of everything that they represent in their career, genre-wise, texturally, from a songwriting perspective. It's just a perfect, succinct representation of why they're such a profoundly influential and excellent band. And then my favorite rock record of all time, as we're
The squeakiest
squeaky
table.
table,
We haven't moved it in a week. I don't know why it's squeaking so much.
but T-Rex's Electric Warrior is probably my favorite rock record of all time. He and Tony Visconti, Mark Bolan and Tony Visconti, deliberately set out to produce the trashiest, most disposable rock record they could, and as a result produced, I think, one of the most flawless representations of what the genre's appeal is, in kind of shooting for that disposability. The way that Mark Bolan uses strings as like a sonic foundation to like make guitar riffs heavier, the space that exists in that mix, the kind of that the glammy trash that they're trying to evoke creates a dustiness and a shimmer to a lot of the tones on that record that I still feel haven't been equaled. And then the Avalanches Since I Left You, which is still probably the best. I always call it plunderphonic because it's a record exclusively comprised of samples. But in being exclusively comprised of samples, it produces a complete synthesis of something unlike anything you've ever heard. Like, you can pick out what individual... There are some things that are really recognizable, like one of the cuts samples the bass line from Madonna's Holiday. Like, that's undeniable. Like, you can pick that out. But it was a record that, for me, I mean, we've lived in a sample-based age for almost 30 years at this point.
Yeah.
That's the creation of something completely new based on other artists' original work, and that blew my mind.
So they're more taking the stems from songs. You're saying like
What they did on that record, because it was recorded in like 1999, 2000, and I'm now hitting on that was a very pivotal period, I guess, in my life in terms of music releases. But a lot of it's records, so they're sampling, they're using vinyl and sampling it and creating something totally new. It's like a flawless DJ set from start to finish that really captures kind of the euphoria and bliss and beauty of groove-based and dance-based music. I mean, there's a track on that record called Tonight May Have to Last Me All My Life that I think we all can resonate with. We've all seen concerts where it's like, this is what being alive, like this is the best of what being alive is. And I can take this with me wherever I go. I can remember this experience when stuff isn't as good as this is. Like, I'm constantly chasing and trying to find that feeling in the music that I listen to in the concerts that I go to.
Well,
so that's probably
go to that Humphreys McGee show.
Yeah, there we go.
It's cool to do that through samples too. Like Paul's Boutique does that for me. It's like, how did they come up with this with just existing?
Oh, yeah.
And they didn't have stems. They didn't have the benefit of digital. I mean, and Paul's Boutique absolutely blew my mind in a similar way. This is, excuse me, that on steroids because everything is a sample.
Yeah.
There is not an original sound to be found on that record. So you don't have any of the Beastie Boys contributing original vocal. Like, it is from start to finish solely based on other artists' original work to a point where you couldn't release it today, probably if you tried. But in doing so, like, I vacillate back and forth between thinking, is it harder to create something original, just write something from scratch, or is it harder to take thousands of sounds and records that people have made before you and then take that original work and create something original from it? Because I think there's an art form to that too, making stuff make sense together.
Yeah. And the physical work of doing that is by far
Well, and that was
way
always
harder.
the most impressive thing about Paul's Boutique was just like, oh my God, like they were sitting there splicing tape to create those beats.
Someone had created a YouTube video. It keeps getting pulled and then brought back of
course.
what is sampled from Paul's Boutique.
Yeah.
And they take the whole thing into the full length of the album into a video. And it's fantastic. You know, you've got Psycho coming in with a wah, 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 wah. Like, they clip all the movie scenes where, like, a little snippet of vocals comes in from that.
That's
and
awesome.
all the different beats. It's fantastic, but it keeps getting pulled from YouTube, so I can't really recommend it because it keeps going away.
But there are websites that have detailed what all those samples are, because you've got everything from Curtis Mayfield to the Eagles to Hendrix to...
Who Sampled is a great
Who
source
Sampled
for
is
that. It's
fantastic.
an awesome website. If you haven't been on there, go on Who Sampled and check out the app, and you'll be on there forever.
An invaluable resource. Yeah. Especially when you hear something, you're like, don't I know this song?
Yeah. Yes, I know it, but
I
slowed
know
way down. And
But not chopped and screwed.
Right.
Yeah. So we've got one venue I'd love to play. Beachfront Ballroom's my favorite in town. I know I probably shouldn't take sides on what my favorite venues are, but that's the one that feels homiest. And they get to a point where you both have the kitsch and approachability that you associate with like any classic bar venue that you'd want to play, with a room that was, even if it wasn't initially designed to be a concert venue, any of those old Slavic music halls was at least designed with acoustics in mind. And I think that really matters when it comes to a venue. Like, you are going to see live music, and the sonic experience and representation of what you're seeing should be a part of that experience. then 6 artists from Northeast Ohio that you should check out. Well, the first 2 are easy. Definitely Shayla Hope and the Sublets, who, even if I was not involved in a management capacity, I would say you absolutely have to listen to. I mean, there are very few people that are doing in pop what Shayla is doing. She comes from a very... There's just no one that sounds like her. She has a completely unique voice and perspective when it comes to her delivery of vocals that will absolutely stop you in your tracks. And it comes from a very profound and learned perspective. To date, nothing that she's released really sounds like anything else. She's a student of pretty much every era of pop before her, 80s to current, and there's something in it for everybody. Even if you don't think you're a pop music fan, you will like something that she's produced.
In the music.
You do, absolutely. And that's intentional because she has been influenced by so much and has the range to do so much because of what she's listened to and what she's lived through that it can't help but come out in the music.
Yeah, just for like 5 tracks, I felt a tip of the cap to like 10 artists.
There we go. That's a beautiful thing, and that's how that record was written with that in mind. It's a love letter to the pop that raised her.
She's our producer today, by the way.
Yeah,
so we see us looking off to the side of the camera.
Agreeing with everything you guys. I'm like, yeah, I'm laughing over here quietly.
And
Ray's been replaced.
Ray has been replaced. And I mean, amongst all of the alt rock and emo revival that we've been living through, typified perhaps by the Machine Gun Kelly Tickets to My Downfall in 2018, the Sublets come at it from a place of actually like rooted in that tradition. Those guys have been playing music since those sounds were in their infancy and actually drivers of mainstream taste and genre. So it's not a fad for them. This is something that they earnestly feel, and that comes across in the music without question. It's nice to hear stuff that isn't being done because it's like, hey, this is a bandwagon we should probably hop on. It's not the countless covers of the Sam Smith, Kim Petras song Unholy in the pop punk style that you hear on Reels or TikTok. Like, these guys earnestly feel it and come from that perspective, and that's a beautiful thing. Colin Miller, who we've talked about before, I think has just an incredible talent and knack for writing songs. He's got a great voice, and he has that rare ability that a lot of great musicians have had to surround themselves with incredibly talented people that are great at what they do. I mean, if you look throughout history, David Bowie was always good about it, Prince was always good about it. Like, the great musicians are great not just because of their own individual talent, but because they could identify that talent in others and bring them in to help bolster what they were doing. I mean, for fuck's sake, like, Stevie Ray Vaughan's on Let's Dance before Texas Flood dropped, 6 months before. It's like, that's what I aspire to when I grow up. I want to be able to identify talent to that level.
He got invited on that tour and was like, no, that's not my gig. But
that's
thanks.
not my gig. Right. And that record's incredible because it's Bowie's sellout record.
Yeah.
It's like, how many artists are able to sell out, quote unquote? I don't really believe that exists anymore.
Right.
It's hard enough to get the money, just get the bread. Like, get in the Ford commercial, get in the, DirecTV commercial. Yeah. Like, it's hard enough to make a living, just do it. Like, that's why we're in it. Not just because of the love, but like, to be able to support yourself doing what you love, go for it.
It's one of my favorite things at the end of Touch Me from the Doors is Stronger Than Dirt, because the band was selling Light My Fire to Buick and they didn't talk to Jim about it, and he was pissed. He's like, all right, if we're just selling, I'm selling to Ajax. Stronger Than Dirt was their slogan. So at the end of the
We're
song
going full
Touch Me,
Smash Mouth.
you're Stronger Than Dirt.
Yeah, I never, I get where that perspective comes from, but I think art can both have intrinsic value as a piece of art and, because of the world that we live in, be monetized without necessarily tarnishing the art. I feel like those two things aren't mutually exclusive. I don't think they have to be.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, is every free jazz record that's ever been released the purest form of essential art because that's not a commercially viable art form, quote unquote?
Do you ever
Is that what we should be listening
Do
to?
you ever get where something's been a little bit, I don't know like if ruined is the right word, but like tainted by it? I heard Vacation from the Go-Go's today. And all I can think of is Rum Ham from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They're playing that while they're
Sure.
going to the Jersey Shore. And that's
But
all
that-
I can think of with that song now.
I mean, but I don't know, because that speaks to a very specific memory. I mean, I assume you like It's Always Sunny from Philadelphia, and that brings you
I'm a creep.
joy. So the fact that that contributed meaningfully to that moment
Yeah.
in that show, and that you can recall it, brings some joy and value to your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Despite it existing independent of the context of that record or the Go-Go's or anything like.
Yeah.
Music soundtracks moments in our lives like that, and its power is in that, I think. It's not just who can play the craziest guitar solo in multiple modes and multiple keys and multiple rhythms. Like, it has to communicate something that's meaningful to the recipient. It can't just be some masturbatory exercise all the time and like, look at how brilliant I am. I mean, there's value in that,
Yeah.
but I think there's also value in communicating and reaching people. And that's kind of what I listen for. So I've done 3. Sorry.
Staying on that vein,
Yeah.
I gotta, before we get to the last 3 and give you time to think about the 3,
Sure.
narrow them down.
Got a couple.
I think what a lot of artists want to know are what are some of the best ways to make money these days with your music.
So over 50%, and this was pre-pandemic, of an artist's income at every level came from touring and merch. So finding ways to play in front of audiences that will help grow your fan base, and then also potentially sell merch through both in-person shows and digital marketing is incredibly helpful. Digital marketing is something I think pretty much every band that has commercial aspirations should be doing, and that doesn't need to be like, you don't need to be spending $10,000 every month on running ads on social media. That's not what it's about. Even $5 a day at some point to identify what an audience looks like, retarget them, and then eventually get to the point where you're collecting email addresses and selling merch that way. You can build a viable career that way. I know placements are always the hot topic, and there's no doubt that placements do represent a significant payday when you have the opportunity, but you can't rest your whole hat on those necessarily. So in terms of being
Because those
prepared
are
for
hard
those,
to get, right?
they're hard to get in terms of shopping for them. Like, you can always throw your hat in the ring, but most artists that I know that have secured significant placements, it happens like that.
Do you know
the
anything about the
opportunity just happens.
perspective of the people buying those placements or picking the song, picking the artist?
More so than ever, it's about mood and feel than it is about genre. And you can even see that in playlist culture. Like, a lot of the playlists that we listen to on Pandora, or even listen to CLE, like, people are listening to music to soundtrack their lives and not necessarily searching for, I mean, a lot of people are searching for specific genres that they know they like, but music is becoming part of what adds to the experience of whatever you're looking for.
So loyalty to a specific genre is more rare these days. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
absolutely. Yeah, I think genre is less relevant than it ever has been, at least in terms of like people's tastes. I think people are more omnivorous in their listening habits than they ever have been, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. And everybody that's not a psycho
Omnivorous.
likes funk.
Yes, I would definitely say that. Yeah,
Although
mean-
a psycho's still like funk.
Yeah. Everybody likes funk.
I think everyone
I would
should.
just go with everybody
Look,
likes
I'd be willing. There's a groove that's going to move everybody.
Yeah.
I think there's some song that's going to get everybody out of their seat and dancing and having a good time, and that's a beautiful thing.
Cool. 3 more artists from.
So 3 more
Make
artists.
it a 2-1-3.
Hello 3D, who are a cumbia-based outfit out of Cleveland, are just making some super compelling music. They describe it as hot weather music. It's rooted in the kind of the Colombian psychedelic tradition, very groovy, instrumental based.
3D.
Hello 3D.
Exclamation mark.
Yes.
You-
Hello exclamation point 3D.
Oh, that's right. It's right. It's
Hello!
It's
in
inserted
there.
in the middle. There we go. But they're absolutely terrific, and there are very few groups, at least that I've encountered, because certainly my listening and concert-going experience is not definitive in any way. There are very few groups that are doing what they're doing.
You only listened to a couple albums last year.
Yeah, only a couple.
We missed a conversation with them. We had to cancel a day once, and they were
Worth getting back,
We
because Jake and Joe, who are at least my good friends in that group, are just absolute
Yeah, we
musical
missed
savants.
them, and we missed Spirited the Bear that day, who we have rescheduled.
Youngstown? Is
Yeah.
that those guys? Okay, cool. They've
A
been
lot of great-
experiencing.
a lot of great artists out of Youngstown.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, absolutely. I was just turned on to, and this, I don't know if I've only heard one song. They only have one single out, so I can't say this definitively, but Sedona. They just released a track called Yacht Club, Y-A-T. It's on the Eisenberg Review this week. There we go, little self-promo there. Very kind of like Mac DeMarco bedroom pop approach, very jangly, echoey guitars. Cool. Very cool. I'm not including them as one of my.
Yeah, sit down.
You got dissed.
My good, no, it's just I can't speak from any sort of authoritative way. Like I've only listened to, they only have one song out, and I've only heard it a couple of
217
times.
I'll
Yeah,
remember.
217.
I'll remember. That's the prettiest city I've ever been to.
Youngstown?
Sedona.
Oh, Sedona. There we go. Because I was gonna be like, no shade on Youngstown, but I'm
travel,
like
man.
Youngstown. Got to think about others. I mean, Ray Flanagan, who we've talked at nauseum, I think typifies the kind of approach that we've been talking about. He's a guy that really reveres history and tradition, and embeds that in a lot of his approach to music. And he's just a hell of a lot of fun, and not afraid to speak his mind musically or otherwise. And I think more artists could learn from that approach. I'm trying to think of one more, and trying to not have it be, because there are obvious choices like Mourning a Black Star, who are just absolutely kind of the same way in which we were talking about Voodoo being an amazing amalgam of the black musical experience. Mourning a Black Star are very much that way in terms of the sounds that they're able to draw on, be it hip-hop or soul or funk music, and transmogrifying that into something that is a unique experience that has a very contemporary viewpoint. So I guess that'll be my sixth. Those are the ones that
Mourning a
come to
Black
mind.
Star,
Yeah.
Good
Great
choice.
success.
Yeah.
Oh damn! Now, of course, now I'm coming up with other people.
Talk at Hello 3D and Morning of Black Star for our conversation, please.
Yes,
Very much so.
absolutely. Because I would also say, I mean, there's so many. Nate Saggio, who is a co-write of Shayla's, wrote Falling on Damn Feelings, and is going to be working on some great material with her coming up this February. I don't know when this is going to air, but
Hopefully this Sunday.
hopefully this Sunday. Okay,
Hopefully this
perfect.
Sunday.
We'll see how the Wi-Fi is in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All comes up to that.
But he is writing a lot of very, very interesting, forward-thinking pop in the James Blake vein. So comes at it from more of an electronic angle, but has a terrific voice. He's a great producer. The sky's the limit for that guy. Whatever he decides to focus on. Because he was the touring keyboardist in Welshly Arms for a while. He's been in a lot of different groups. Really good songwriter and producer. There's a rock act. Well, I'm breaking the rule with Sidonia, but there's a new group, Locanti, who's really piqued my interest as of late. They're a rock group that are descendants of the original, founder of the Agora back in the 60s. I think that Locanti is the last name of 3 of the members. They're writing some really interesting alternative rock that has definitely piqued my interest. It's not just the 4 chords and the truth approach. Not that there's anything wrong with that approach, but at least the one tune that they've released, which the name escapes me, thanks to the whiskey and the beer
that happens.
and lack of dinner, but very
that
interestingly
will be it
arranged.
too, yeah. Cool. Yeah, it
Yeah.
can be the 2-1-20 if you got
2-1-20. There we go. Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of talent here, and it's easier to reach audiences than it's ever been, but making it in Cleveland assures that you have what it takes to make it anywhere, but it doesn't guarantee that at all. But you could say that about pretty much any city that isn't London or LA or New York. Like most cities, if you make it big in that city, you have to find a broader audience.
That's where
To really
we've
make it.
lost a lot of our diamonds.
Sure.
They realize their worth and see ya.
Oh, yeah.